Tonight, the flu emergency, now so bad many ERs are overwhelmed, forced to turn patients away, some even being treated outside in tents, what federal health officials are saying tonight. A cascading nightmare at airports all across the country, a blizzard backlog in the air and even on the ground, cars left frozen. And if you think it's cold now, just wait. The author at the center of that explosive Trump book battle fires back at the president.
My credibility is being questioned by a man who has less credibility than perhaps anyone who has ever walked on Earth at this point.
Our NBC News exclusive with Michael Wolff. Our visit to the new boomtown sprouting up in the desert.
$8,064,000 of cannabis every single year out of this one building.
Yep. Your lips to God's ears.
Just one building alone.
They're banking on a pot bonanza. And update your iPhone. That's a new warning as a security threat sends Apple, Google, and Microsoft scrambling.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome to our viewers in the West. Across the country tonight, hospitals are being overwhelmed by a flu emergency. The Centers for Disease Control out with new numbers tonight showing the flu season is off to a fast and brutal start, far worse than what they saw last year at this time. Tens of thousands have been sickened in nearly every state, including some who got the flu shot. And more worrisome, the peak of the season is still weeks away. Our national correspondent Miguel Almaguer has details tonight.
I'm going to take a look in your throat here, okay?
The new numbers from the CDC are no surprise to Dr. Kate Katzung, another patient with flu-like symptoms ending up in her ER.
Good.
So far this flu season, a staggering 41,719 cases have been reported, nearly 3 times more than this time last season.
Christian got it on the 21st, then Jacob got it the 23rd, then I got it the 26th.
Outside Portland, Oregon, the Frazier family fell like dominoes. 4 children crippled by the flu. Mom Jamie is still sick today.
Christmas consisted of the ones who were sick wearing surgical masks to open their presents, and then pretty much going back and laying in all of our beds again.
It turns out the Frazier family was hit with 2 strains of the flu, even though the kids had their flu shots. Last year at this time, the outbreak was widespread in 12 states. This year, 46.
We expect it to continue to rise because everyone's been home with their families and now the schools are reopened. Children are together again. People are back in the workplace.
Tonight, it's unclear why this flu season is so bad. Some hospitals are inundated, asking those who aren't severely ill to stay home. Others are restricting visitors. In San Diego, a surge tent is set up to triage flu patients. Hospitals and families everywhere overwhelmed as the epidemic spreads.
Tonight at many hospitals across the country, beds are at a premium. As for that flu shot, while it's not always effective and it's not a guarantee you won't get sick, doctors say if you have it and catch the flu, your symptoms will be much less severe. Lester.
Looks like we're all going to have to take care of ourselves. Thank you, Miguel. Now to the nightmare ripple effect from the blizzard of 2018 being felt by people traveling all across the country trying to fly out of airports that are still snowed under. Yet again today, nearly 2,000 flights were canceled. Over the last 2 days, almost 1 million passengers have had their flights canceled. NBC's Tom Costello has the latest on the effort to dig out and get flights back up in the air.
From Portland, Maine, where they've been blowing and scraping the runways, south to Boston, New York, even the deep south, it was a day of digging out and rebooking.
They told us that maybe we'll fly back on Monday or on Tuesday only. So a few more days in New York.
Flying from Denver to New York for her grandmother's birthday yesterday, Annie Kaufman didn't even know she'd been diverted to Detroit.
I was asleep the whole time, and so when they said, "Welcome to Detroit," I looked at the woman next to me and I was like, Detroit?
By this morning, she'd made it to Boston, where ground crews worked round the clock through cold, heavy wind to clear 13.5 inches of snow from the runways and ramps. Soon, planes were back in the air.
A lot of snow out there. We have really no place to put it. We really pile it into big mountains of snow, and then we melt it.
In New York, LaGuardia, Newark, and JFK all reopened today after many passengers slept on a cold airport floor.
Some people are saying they're probably just going to drive to other states just to get another airport.
Even the bus station in Chicago was packed with stranded passengers.
I'm tired, I'm exhausted, and I have to stay here in the bus stop at Greyhound with my kids.
Frozen stilled houses in Situate.
Back in coastal Massachusetts, the icy aftermath. Boats frozen in harbors, cars encased in ice up to their hoods.
The thing that was crazy was it came on so fast.
Crews now removing mountains of debris after a record-breaking storm surge. And look at this. The airport in Charleston, of all places, buried in 8 inches of snow. With no plows, the runways are still closed.
You know, we live in South Carolina, not South Dakota. We're not accustomed to this kind of weather.
Charleston is hoping the Air Force will have it all cleared by sometime tomorrow as the national air system recovers. So the airlines have some advice if your flight is canceled. You can stand in line for a rebooking. You could call the airline, but they say the best way to do this is get the app on your phone and rebook yourself. That's faster than waiting for the computer to automatically rebook you. Some advice for the next time your flight is canceled. Lester, -10 with the wind chill here in D.C. Back to you.
Lovely. Tom Costello, thank you. The blizzard may have blown out, but the deep freeze is just getting started. Record lows possible on the East Coast as we head into the weekend. Wind chill advisories have been issued for millions of people. In some places, it could feel like 40 below. NBC meteorologist Dylan Dreyer is braving the cold in New York City tonight. Dylan, the 2 questions everyone wants to answers to: how low will it go and how long is this going to last?
Well, Lester, we are looking at record-breaking cold by the time we get to Sunday morning. Tom Costello said it was 10 below with the wind chill in D.C. I was going to complain about the 4 we're dealing with right now in New York City, but I won't do that anymore. Let's take a look at the graphics. And 111 million people are under some sort of wind chill advisory or wind chill warning, and that is going to last all weekend long. Tomorrow morning, it will feel like 20 degrees below zero in Boston as that cold air pours in. It only takes 30 minutes to get frostbite when conditions are that cold. We're looking at 6 below down in D.C. tomorrow, 20 below. Also, the wind chill in Indianapolis. Now, on Sunday morning, the cold continues. Temperatures will feel like 29 below in Bangor, Maine. It'll feel like 10 below in New York City. Even down into the Carolinas, we are going to feel wind chills well down in the lower single digits. As for records, Sunday morning, we will see several records broken across major cities. 0 in Philly, 1 in New York, 5 below in Boston. The good news is by Sunday afternoon, a warm-up will move into the Midwest, and it should make it to the East Coast by Monday. Lester?
All right, Dylan Dreyer, thank you. Now to an NBC News exclusive. Michael Wolff, the author at the center of the storm and in the president's crosshairs after writing the book about life inside the Trump West Wing that left jaws dropping. The White House has pushed back hard, calling it fiction. But Wolff is having none of it, standing by his work and doubling down. We get details from NBC's Kristen Welker.
Today, President Trump pelted with questions about the explosive book, Fire and Fury.
Mr. President, what do you say to Michael Wolff?
Showing restraint, but earlier taking to Twitter to unleash some fury of his own, calling the book full of lies, misrepresentations, and sources that don't exist. Mr. Trump's legal team tried to block the book's release. In such high demand, it hit shelves today, 4 days early.
Wait, where do I send the box of chocolates?
In an exclusive interview on Today, author Michael Wolff said the president's threats will only boost his sales. And Wolff insisted the account is accurate, despite some of the president's former top aides saying they were misquoted.
I am certainly and absolutely in every way comfortable with everything I've reported.
Wolff noting he recorded some interviews and spoke with the president.
I've spent about 3 hours with the president over the course of the campaign in the White House.
And when pressed by Savannah on his assertion that those around the president question his fitness for office?
Let me put a marker in the sand here. 100% of the people around him.
Even claiming the president's aides all describe him the same way.
They all say he is like a child. And what they mean by that is he has a need for immediate gratification. It's all about him.
This morning, the president's supporters fired back.
It's absolutely outrageous to make these types of accusations, and it's simply untrue.
And disputed several facts, including that now First Lady Melania Trump cried about moving to the White House.
Melania, like the rest of us, was ecstatic that her husband had just been elected the 45th president of the United States.
Did you flatter your way in?
I certainly said what was ever necessary to get the story.
The president is also out with a new mocking nickname for his former advisor, Steve Bannon, calling him Sloppy Steve on Twitter today. Bannon is a central source in the book. He accuses Trump's son of treason and questions the president's grasp of reality. No response from Bannon tonight. Lester.
Kristen Welker at the White House. Thank you, Kristen. Now to the new revelations in the Russia investigation. Multiple White House officials urged Attorney General Jeff Sessions not to recuse himself from the probe, according to a senior U.S. official. And the order reportedly came straight from the Oval Office. It has some asking tonight, could that be construed as obstruction of justice? NBC News national correspondent Peter Alexander has more.
Do not recuse yourself. That was the message delivered to Attorney General Jeff Sessions by White House counsel Don McGahn and several other White House officials last March. A senior U.S. official telling NBC News the presidential aides all tried to convince Sessions not to remove himself from running the Russia probe. The instructions coming from the president himself, according to the New York Times, orders Sessions ignored.
I have recused myself.
Sessions' move infuriating President Trump, who the Times said erupted in anger, telling aides he expected his attorney general to look out for him, like Mr. Trump said Robert F. Kennedy did for JFK and Eric Holder for President Obama.
It just gives us a sense of how the president sees the job of his top law enforcement official, not as someone necessarily to follow the facts, but someone to protect him.
Ultimately, Sessions' deputy would appoint special counsel Robert Mueller. The entire episode raising new questions about possible obstruction of justice.
President Trump faces both political and legal threats. We have more information available to us about possible obstruction of justice than about collusion.
A White House lawyer declined to comment. Also tonight, word the FBI's resumed an investigation into the Clinton Foundation, focusing on whether donors received preferential treatment from the State Department while Hillary Clinton was at the helm. The FBI's looked into this before, but that inquiry was put on ice during the 2016 campaign to avoid the perception the FBI was trying to influence the election. The president's repeatedly urged the FBI to go after Clinton, his past opponent, tweeting, "Where is our Justice Department?" A Clinton spokesman tonight calling the inquiry a sham, adding the goal is to distract from the indictments, guilty pleas, and accusations of treason from Trump's own people at the expense of our justice system's integrity.
And tonight, the Justice Department says that Attorney General Sessions was not invited to this weekend's Camp David retreat, where many other cabinet officials will be present. The White House says the majority of cabinet members are not attending and that it stands firmly behind Attorney General Sessions. Lester?
Peter Alexander inside the White House tonight. Thanks. The new jobs report is out. The U.S. added 148,000 jobs in December, falling short of economists' expectations. The unemployment rate remains steady at 4.1%. That's the lowest level in 17 years. And year over year, wages grew about 2.5%. And speaking of jobs and the economy, with the Trump administration this week rolling back Obama-era rules that allowed legal marijuana to thrive, nerves are sure to be rattled in California towns that are now banking on recreational cannabis to dig them out of tough times. NBC's Jacob Soboroff visited one of them.
In 2001, the town of Desert Hot Springs went bankrupt. It's been struggling ever since and now hopes to revive its fortunes with cannabis.
We have over 200 parcels that are zoned for cannabis.
Greta Carter runs a consulting group for cannabis businesses there. One of them is this facility. It cost $7 million to build, but the upside is almost priceless. $8,064,000 of cannabis every single year out of this one building.
Your lips to God's ears.
Desert Hot Springs has 60 projects just like it in the approval process. It's already had an impact on property values.
A couple years ago, they were probably purchased for around $60,000 an acre.
$60,000. And today?
You'd be lucky if you could find one for $900,000 to $1 million.
Pot has also been a boon for the construction business here.
Has this been a busy time for you? Busier than normal?
This year has been good, yeah. Since the recession, yeah, this has been the busiest year.
But even while touring a recently approved project with clients, Carter acknowledges a harsh reality.
You were saying a lot of people out here now are buying acres at $1 million a pop. They're not all going to succeed.
That's true. Some of them won't get their doors open. Other states show us 70% fail rate.
A 70% fail rate, and now an antagonistic federal government should strike fear into the heart of anyone investing in pot. But like California's original gold rush, the prospect of prosperity from cannabis hasn't stopped people from trying. Jacob Soboroff, NBC News, Desert Hot Springs, California.
Still ahead as we continue tonight's security alert. Why billions of devices from Apple, Google, and Microsoft are now open to attack. A step you should take right now to protect yourself. Also, the health scare that has Jeopardy host Alex Trebek taking a break from his beloved game show. Stay with us. Grab your laptop, grab your phone. There's a new alert tonight about a security threat putting potentially billions of people at risk. In fact, Apple says it affects nearly all of its devices. Google and Microsoft devices are also vulnerable, and all of those companies are scrambling to fix the problem. NBC's Jolene Kent has details on what you should know.
The security flaws affecting many brands are called Meltdown and Spectre, and Apple says every Mac, iPhone, and iPad have them.
I pretty much live through all my electronics as far as iPad, computer, laptop, phone. So the fact that all that stuff could be easily recovered from some outside party, that's kind of creepy.
The flaw allows cyber criminals to tap into the memory on a chip found in billions of laptops, desktops, tablets, and smartphones from almost all brands. Hackers could access your personal data like usernames and passwords.
There's quite a bit of sensitive information that's contained within memory, and once an attacker has access to that, they can leverage that to get further access to a system or to a corporate network.
The flawed chips were made by Intel, Advanced Micro Devices, and ARM. In a statement, Intel says it's working with other tech companies to resolve this issue promptly and constructively. No cyber theft has been reported yet, but consumers probably won't be able to detect any breach.
To protect yourself, Apple, Microsoft, and Google have put out new security patches in their software updates that people should download right away.
They should also turn on automatic updates so that their devices and their computers will take care of themselves.
Intel is now facing multiple class action lawsuits by customers alleging they're being forced to buy a new chip or download a fix that slows their system. Another obstacle in safeguarding your digital life. Jolene Kent, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Still ahead here tonight, the touching story of some compassionate 8th graders and one lucky duck. An enormous outpouring of emotion outside of Denver today as thousands turned out to honor fallen Deputy Zachary Parrish. Law enforcement officers came from all across the state to pay tribute with cars lined up for half a mile for his funeral, a mile and a half for his funeral services. Parrish was killed in a shooting ambush on New Year's Eve. He leaves behind a wife and 2 young daughters. Well wishes are pouring in tonight for Jeopardy host Alex Trebek. He's on the mend after having surgery for blood clots on his brain, which he says were caused by a fall he suffered a couple of months ago. The 77-year-old Trebek says his prognosis is excellent, and he expects to be back in the studio reading answers very soon. And a moving story out of Arkansas about one lucky duck. When a group of 8th grade science students learned that a duck named Peg lost part of his foot, they flew into action, designing and 3D printing a prosthetic foot. It took them about 30 tries, but they finally found the perfect fit. When we come back, lots of excitement for the Golden Globes, but how will this weekend ceremony grapple with the scandals gripping Hollywood? Finally, tonight, it's one of Hollywood's most anticipated nights. The 75th annual Golden Globes are this Sunday, but this year's celebration is happening under the dark cloud of scandals rocking the entertainment industry. NBC's Joe Fryer now, and what to expect.
The Golden Globes have become known as Hollywood's biggest party. An unpredictable bash that brings together stars from movies and TV.
This isn't the first time I've been mistaken for Ryan Reynolds.
This year's nominees include Tom Hanks, Denzel Washington, Nicole Kidman, and Meryl Streep, nominated for the 31st time. But the show will also strike a more serious tone. It'll start right here on the red carpet, where you can expect to see a different kind of fashion statement. Several stars promised to wear all black to protest sexual harassment and assault. In the wake of the Harvey Weinstein allegations and Me Too movement, Golden Globes host Seth Meyers says he must find the right balance.
You talk about how to strike the right tone. We definitely aren't going to ignore it.
It's the elephant in the room.
The issue even extends to the actual awards. Nominee Christopher Plummer could be rewarded for reshooting all of Kevin Spacey's scenes in All the Money in the World right before the movie was released.
People are going to be paying more close attention to their casting, who they're working with, and they're going to be a little bit possibly more cautious about that.
This year, The Shape of Water leads all movies with 7 nominations, while the TV categories feature rookie shows like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and reboots like Will and Grace, a mix of old and new, together under one star-studded roof. Joe Fryer, NBC News, Beverly Hills, California.
We appreciate you spending part of your evening with us. That is Nightly News for this Friday night. I'm Lester Holt. For all of us at NBC News, thank you for watching. Good night and have a good weekend.